All right, so diving in today, we're tackling something that I think is super relevant for, well, anyone leading a team, leading a company, leading a project. It's that challenge of how do you level up your leadership game, even when you've already got a ton of experience under your belt. And we've got some seriously interesting material to dig into here. It's almost like, a playbook for those leaders who are ready to make a real impact.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Think of it as a concentrated dose of leadership wisdom.
Right.
And it's particularly relevant for someone who's already been in the trenches, especially with partnerships. They've navigated all those complexities. And now they're looking to really boost their influence, their effectiveness, when it comes to strategy, transforming things at scale, building high-performing teams. So our goal here is to extract those nuggets of gold, those really powerful, practical ideas that can help leaders elevate their game.
Love that. And to make sure we're covering the essential ground here, I'm thinking we focus on four key themes. These are things that, and when you talk about impactful leadership, they just keep popping up and they're all interconnected. So first, we've got to talk about vision, right? But not just any vision, a vision that's truly compelling. And it has to be coupled with genuine authenticity, because without that, it's just empty words. Then there's that whole realm of strategic thinking, being sharp, being able to anticipate what's coming down the pike. Third, how do you skillfully guide those big transformations, the ones that really shake things up? But always with a focus on the people involved, because without them, you're going nowhere. And finally, that crucial element of building teams that can operate at the highest level consistently. So let's start with that first piece, visionary and authentic leadership. I mean, these aren't just nice to haves, right? They're fundamental.
You're absolutely spot on. They are fundamental, really. It's like two sides of the same coin, I'd say. That visionary leadership. It provides the North Star,
Yeah.
right? That destination. It gives everyone a sense of why this journey even matters. But, and this is a big but, without that authentic leadership, the vision, it just rings hollow. It's disconnected. It's like trying to run a car without fuel. Authenticity. It's about being grounded, in your values, leading transparently. That's what builds trust. That's what gets people to buy in and actually make that vision a reality. So think of it this way, maybe. Vision is where we're going. Authenticity is the fuel and the compass. They're intertwined. They feed each other.
That makes a lot of sense. So when we're talking about vision, we're talking about more than just a snappy slogan. It's
Right.
going to be a clear picture of the future, but also that deeper sense of purpose, the why behind it all, reminds me of Simon Sinek and his work on starting with why.
Absolutely. A well-designed vision, it doesn't just describe some future state. It really taps into the core purpose, the values, the heart of the organization. It provides clarity on not just what you're trying to achieve, but why it even matters. And this distinction here is so important. The mission, that's the overarching, enduring reason for being. Like, think of a company, right? Their mission is to empower global communication. That's their big why. Then you have the vision. It gets more specific, more time-bound. It's how that mission will manifest. Maybe it's becoming the leading platform for real-time collaborative work. And then strategy. Strategy is your plan. The how. You're creating that line of sight. From your fundamental reason for being to your aspirational future to those concrete steps you're going to take.
So it all connects, right?
Yeah.
It's not just inspiring the team internally. The impact of a strong vision, it goes way beyond that.
100%. A strong vision, it motivates, it inspires, it taps into something deeper, in people, that desire to contribute to something that's meaningful. And there's research to back this up. Self-determination theory shows that when individuals feel a sense of purpose, a connection to a larger goal, their engagement, their performance, it all skyrockets. And beyond just motivating people, a clear vision, it aligns everyone, it focuses the organization, it becomes a filter for decision-making at every level, and it builds resilience. When people understand the ultimate goal, they're more likely to push through those inevitable setbacks. And then, of course, there's the talent piece. A strong vision, it acts like a magnet, pulling in top talent, the people who are drawn to purpose, to direction. It even attracts the right kind of partners, the ones who see the potential for mutual benefit.
Makes sense.
Okay, so how does a leader, someone who's been around the block a few times, how do they actually craft this kind of vision? It's not like you just snap your fingers, right?
Oh, definitely not. It takes time. It takes real thought. It often starts internally with self-reflection, understanding your own values, your passions, what you want for the organization. But it quickly needs to broaden. You need to get those diverse perspectives. That means actively seeking input from your team, maybe even using specific techniques like appreciative inquiry. It's a way of focusing on strengths, on positive possibilities, and engaging stakeholders. customers, investors, even the broader community. You're making sure that vision resonates outside your own four walls. And let's not forget the external landscape. You need a good analysis of market trends, competitors, what's happening in society. You're grounding the vision in reality. And of course, you need to align all of that with the overall company strategy.
So it's an inclusive process, it's informed. What happens after you've got all that input? What's the next step?
Right, so then comes the synthesis and drafting. Now, one really powerful technique here is what's called future back thinking. Basically, you vividly imagine that successful future. Then you work backward, figuring out those milestones, those key actions you need to get there. Then you start drafting vision statements. Not shooting for perfection here, just capturing the essence. And this is where testing and refining comes in. Sharing those drafts, getting feedback, using specific prompts like when you read this, what do you see? What excites you? What worries you? That kind of thing. It's iterative. You listen, you adapt, you clarify.
Got it. And then once you have that final vision statement, the job's not over.
Right.
You've got to communicate it. And
Yeah.
communicate it well. That seems just as crucial.
You nailed it. Launching the vision. That's just the beginning. You need to communicate it relentlessly. Different channels, different ways. Town halls, newsletters, one-on-one conversations. Storytelling can be super powerful here. It brings the vision to life. But, and I think this is the most important part, you have to walk the talk. As a leader, you need to demonstrate through your actions that you believe in this vision. You live it and breathe it. And finally, translate that vision into action. Measurable goals. Using frameworks like OKRs, objectives and key results. Everyone needs to understand how their daily work connects to that bigger picture.
Right. So even with the best vision, there can be bumps in the road. What are some of the challenges that can derail things?
Oh, there are a few common ones. One is what I call vision disconnect. That's where the vision at the top, it doesn't connect with the day-to-day reality of employees, creates cynicism, lack of belief. Another pitfall is striking the right balance. You don't want to be too vague, where no one knows what it means, but you also don't want to be too prescriptive. You stifle creativity. Then there's vision drift. The vision loses its focus, its relevance over time, and maybe the biggest mistake of all, ignoring reality. The market reality, the competition, what your organization is actually capable of. So to avoid those pitfalls, you need to be vigilant, communicate openly, and be ready to adapt vision when things change.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about authentic leadership. It feels like this has become, I don't know, even more important lately.
I'd agree with that. In today's world where trust and transparency are so valued, authenticity, it's essential. It's not about forcing a specific leadership style. It's about leading from your true self, knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, and acting in a way that aligns with your core values. There's a model, a really good one by Bill George and others. It emphasizes 4 dimensions: self-awareness, relational transparency, balanced processing, and an internalized moral perspective.
Self-awareness, that seems like the bedrock.
Right.
It's about really knowing yourself as a leader.
Exactly. It's about understanding your values, your beliefs, how you react emotionally, and how your behavior impacts others. It includes recognizing your triggers, your biases, those default patterns you fall into. Ask yourself honestly, how well do I know my own triggers, my biases, my patterns? That's a powerful place to start. And there are tools too. 360-degree feedback, personality assessments, they can be super helpful.
So what's the payoff? Why is authentic leadership so important? What's the impact?
Oh, the benefits are significant. Authentic leaders, they build deeper trust. They're more credible with their teams, with their peers, with everyone. It fosters psychological safety. That's a concept Amy Edmondson has researched extensively. It's where people feel safe to take risks, to speak their mind, to just be themselves without fear. And that leads to more engagement, more commitment from the team, a more ethical culture overall. People are happier, they feel better. And the decisions you make, they're better because people feel empowered to speak truth to power. You get those diverse perspectives.
Okay, so how do you cultivate authenticity? It's not something you just decide to do one day. It's a process.
Definitely. It takes ongoing effort. Self-reflection's a big part of it. We talked about self-awareness. That's the starting point. Regular reflection on your experiences. Seeking feedback. And being open to it, even when it's tough. Identifying your core values. Understanding your own leadership journey. The story you've been living. Then there's relational transparency. Sharing information appropriately, being willing to admit mistakes, and making sure your words and actions are aligned. You also need balanced processing, actively seeking diverse viewpoints, listening more than you talk, challenging your own biases. And finally, strengthening your ethical core, revisiting your values, considering those tough ethical dilemmas, and having the courage to act on your principles, even when it's hard.
There's definitely nuance to this. The material mentions the authenticity paradox. What's that all about?
Ah, yes. The authenticity paradox. It's this tension between being true to yourself while also adapting to new roles, new contexts. As leaders grow, their responsibilities change. They might need to adjust their style, their approach. And the paradox is, how do you do that authentically without feeling fake, without losing yourself? It's about being authentic to your evolving self, not clinging to old behaviors. And there's also the question of vulnerability versus oversharing. Knowing what to share and what to keep private. Culture plays a role too. How authenticity is seen, how it's expressed, it can vary. And then there's the whole idea of weaponized authenticity, where someone might pretend to be genuine, but they're actually being manipulative. True authenticity, it has to be rooted in values, in ethical intentions.
Makes you think. Okay, let's move on to that second theme, strategic acumen and foresight. Seems like in today's world, if you're just reacting, you're already behind. You need to be shaping the future.
Absolutely. That shift from reacting to being proactive, thinking ahead, it's crucial for experienced leaders.
Hmm.
You have a SWOT analysis. It's a great starting point, understanding your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. But effective leaders, they go further. They use things like scenario planning. They make strategic bets. Scenario planning is all about identifying those key uncertainties, the things that could really shake things up. Then you develop different scenarios. Based on how those uncertainties might play out, you assess the implications for your organization. You come up with options.
That example of a payment tech company planning for different regulations, or maybe a huge tech giant enters the scene, that really shows the value of scenario planning. You're prepared for anything.
Exactly. You're building resilience, you've got contingency plans, and then there's aligning your partnerships, making sure they connect with your strategic goals. One way to do this is with a partnership strategy map. It visually links your partners to those overarching goals. You can even score those partnerships, to prioritize your efforts. Ask yourself, if this partnership disappeared tomorrow, what would be the impact? It helps you see which relationships are truly strategic.
It makes sense. We also need to talk about measurement. How do you anticipate future performance? The material mentions leading indicators and lagging indicators. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So lagging indicators, they tell you what's already happened, like your revenue growth or your customer churn rate. Important for understanding the past, but not so helpful for predicting the future. Leading indicators, on the other hand, they give you signals about what might happen. For a sales team, it might be the number of qualified leads or their conversion rate. The key is to focus on just a few, maybe 3 to 5, leading indicators that are the most predictive. It lets you manage proactively, make adjustments before it's too late.
The Netflix story, their pivot to streaming, that's a classic example of strategic acumen and foresight in action.
Yeah, it's a great one. They saw the shift coming. Consumer behavior was changing. And they made a big bet, a risky bet, some might say. They disrupted their own business. But it paid off. They invested in streaming, built partnerships with device manufacturers. It wasn't just about following a trend. It was about shaping the future.
Okay, let's talk about strategic acumen itself. It's more than just knowing your business, right?
Right. Strategic acumen, it's about understanding the why behind your strategy. The reasoning, the assumptions, the trade-offs. It's about systems thinking, seeing the whole picture, how all the parts connect. You need business literacy, understanding the functions, the financial side of things, and critical thinking, analyzing information objectively, making good judgments.
What are the key ingredients of strategic acumen? What makes someone really good at it?
So there's a few things. Deep understanding of your business model. You can use tools like the business model canvas. It helps you map out how you create and deliver value. Then you need a solid competitive analysis. Don't just look at your direct competitors. Understand the whole landscape. Use frameworks like Porter's 5 Forces or explore new market spaces, blue ocean strategy. Then you absolutely need to understand your customers, their needs, what motivates them, how their expectations are changing. Financial intelligence is critical too. You need to be able to interpret those financial statements, understand what's driving the numbers. And finally, a realistic assessment of your own strengths and weaknesses, a dynamic SWOT analysis, and a strong awareness of what's happening in the market, the industry trends.
That's a lot to take in. So how do you develop those skills? How do you get better at strategic acumen?
It's an ongoing process. Be curious. Always be learning. Read widely. Talk to people with different perspectives. Stay up to date on industry news. Get involved in different parts of your organization so you see how things work cross-functionally. Find a mentor, someone with more experience. Formal learning is great too. Executive education, relevant courses. Analyze business case studies. Practice those strategic frameworks. And work on your financial literacy.
All good advice. How does this all apply to managing partnerships? How does strategic acumen come into play there?
Well, when it comes to partnerships, it's all about picking the right partners. Make sure they align strategically, they have the capabilities you need, they're positioned well competitively, and look at their culture, their financial health. Then you need to structure those deals strategically. Reselling agreements, co-selling, integrations, co-marketing, joint ventures, it all needs to support your objectives. And be ruthless. Prioritize those opportunities. Don't spread yourself too thin. Measure the value of those partnerships and go beyond revenue. Look at things like market access, technology leverage.
What are some of those common traps? The things that can trip people up when it comes to strategic acumen?
Oh, there are a few. Analysis paralysis. You get stuck in the data, you can't make a decision. Then there's ignoring execution realities.
Yeah.
You come up with this grand plan, but it's not practical. Confirmation bias is a big one. You only see the data that supports what you already believe. And then there's that inward focus. You forget about the external environment. And the biggest mistake, maybe, treating strategy like it's set in stone. It's not. It's a living thing. It needs to adapt.
Let's talk about foresight. That seems like it's about going beyond the current trends and trying to see what's over the horizon.
That's it. Foresight, it's about developing that sensitivity to change, envisioning multiple futures, being imaginative, being prepared. It's not about predicting the future. No one can do that. It's about understanding the trends, the disruptions that might be coming so you can make smarter decisions today.
So how do you cultivate foresight? What are some techniques leaders can use?
There are a few systematic approaches. One is environmental scanning, sometimes called horizon scanning. You're looking for early signals of change in the political, economic, social, technological, legal, environmental landscapes. Paying attention to those weak signals, the subtle hints. Trend analysis is another one. Identifying trends and seeing where they might lead. We talked about scenario planning. That's a deep dive. Expert consultation can be helpful too. The Delphi method is an example. You gather insights from a group of experts, anonymously, over multiple rounds. Analogical reasoning can be useful. You learn from past events or similar situations. And then there's wargaming, or simulations. You model different scenarios. It helps you stretch your thinking.
And how do you take all of that, those foresight insights, and integrate them into your strategy, into your partnerships?
So the insights from foresight, they should inform your strategic bets, help you spot opportunities and threats earlier. It also helps you build in flexibility, resilience. You don't want to be stuck on one path. And when it comes to partnerships, foresight can help you shape your ecosystem. You identify potential partners, you anticipate their needs, their capabilities, and finally, you build an early warning system, using signposts to track those key trends, and you trigger your contingency plans when needed.
What are some of the challenges with foresight? Why is it so hard for some organizations to really get good at it?
Well, there's that short-termism problem. Everyone's focused on the immediate results. They don't think long-term. And dealing with ambiguity, uncertainty, that can be uncomfortable for some people. Cognitive biases can get in the way too, anchoring on current trends, being overly optimistic. And then there's the integration gap. You have the insights, but you can't translate them into action. And sometimes there's just resistance to considering those unpleasant futures, even when the evidence is staring you in the face.
Let's move on to another big area for experienced leaders, leading large-scale transformations. This is about changing the way an organization operates at a fundamental level.
Exactly. It's not just incremental change. It's about changing the very DNA of the organization, how people work, how they think, how they behave, and understanding the human side of change. That's key. Overcoming resistance is often the biggest challenge. You need to acknowledge people's concerns, their fears, clearly explain why this transformation is happening, what the benefits are, involve people in the process, give them ownership, find those change champions, the people who will advocate for the new way, and provide support, resources so people can adapt.
The manual talks about Kotter's 8-step process for change. How can that be applied to partnerships?
It's a good framework. First, create a sense of urgency. Highlight those competitive pressures or the opportunities that are being missed. Then build a coalition. Influential leaders from your organization, from your partner organizations, they need to be on board. Then develop that clear vision for the future of your partnerships. Communicate that vision widely. Be clear, be consistent, empower action. Remove obstacles. Enable your partners to embrace the change. Generate short-term wins. Build momentum. Show that it's working. Consolidate those gains. Keep pushing the initiative forward. And finally, anchor those new approaches in the culture. Make the changes stick.
Communication seems so important during a big transformation.
It's critical. Have a solid communication plan. Figure out your key messages, who you need to reach, the best channels to use, how often you'll communicate, and how you'll get feedback. Be transparent, have open dialogue, build trust, keep everyone informed, and track your progress. Use metrics. Look at adoption rates, stakeholder sentiment, milestone achievement, and ultimately the impact on the business.
IBM, when they shifted to services under Lou Gerstner, that's a powerful example of a successful transformation.
It really is. Gerstner, he was the driving force. He set the vision, made those tough calls, and he was laser focused on the customer. It shows how important strong leadership is when you're going through a major change.
The manual also talks about different types of transformations in partnerships. What are some examples?
So you might have a strategic repositioning transformation. Your partnership strategy needs to adapt to market changes. Digital transformations, leveraging technology to improve interactions and create more value. Structural transformations, maybe changing the organization, the governance model. Cultural transformations, fostering more collaboration, more innovation. Then you have those post-merger integrations, bringing partner programs together. And even business model transformations. You need to rethink how you create and capture value with your partners. Knowing what kind of transformation you're dealing with, it helps you tailor your approach.
Why are transformations so difficult, especially in a partnership setting?
Well, there are a lot of reasons. Large organizations, they're complex, they're interconnected. And then you add in those partner networks, it gets even more complicated. People resist change. It's natural. They fear the unknown. They worry about losing control, their job security. Resources are often limited. The vision might not be clear. Leaders might not be fully committed. People get tired of constant change. And in a partnership, you've got to navigate those different cultures, priorities, power dynamics. That's a lot to manage.
What about the leader's role? What do they need to do to guide a transformation effectively?
The leader, their role is critical, and it's multifaceted. They set the vision. They explain why this change is necessary. They're the architect, designing the roadmap, the structures. They mobilize everyone, inspire them to embrace the change. They remove roadblocks. They coach individuals, teams. They make decisions, especially when things are tough. And they model resilience. They show commitment. They persevere. Because it's going to be a challenging journey.
Last but not least, let's talk about building high-performing teams. It's more than just having a group of talented people, right?
Absolutely. It's about creating the right environment. The leader, they're like an architect, designing the structure as a culture, the processes. A high-performing team, it consistently achieves great results. It operates sustainably without burning out. It adapts to new challenges. It's constantly learning and improving.
The manual talks about psychological safety as being essential for high performance. It draws on Amy Edmondson's work. Why is that so important?
Psychological safety, it's that belief that you can take risks, speak your mind, admit mistakes without fear of negative consequences. It's absolutely critical. Without it, people won't take those risks. They won't challenge the status quo. They won't share their ideas. They won't point out problems. It kills learning, innovation, inclusion, engagement. The team can't reach its potential.
How can a leader create that kind of environment? What can they do to build psychological safety?
Leaders, they set the tone. They make it safe to speak up. Framework is a learning process. Mistakes are opportunities to learn, not reasons to blame. Admit your own mistakes. Show that you don't have all the answers. Be curious, ask questions, get input from the team. When mistakes happen, focus on the learning, not the blame. Create a culture of respect, inclusivity. Make sure everyone feels valued. Set clear expectations for how people communicate. Even how you run meetings matters. Make sure everyone's voice is heard, that different opinions are welcomed.
Google's Project Aristotle, they identified several key factors for team effectiveness, and psychological safety was number one. What were some of the other factors?
Right, so beyond psychological safety, there's dependability. Team members can count on each other to get things done, to do quality work. Then there's structure and clarity. Clear goals, roles, responsibilities, meaning the work has a purpose, it aligns with people's values, and impact. Team members believe their work matters, it makes a difference. The leader plays a big role in all of this. For dependability, it's about setting clear expectations, making sure people are accountable, managing workload fairly, and being a role model yourself. For structure and clarity, it's about setting goals effectively, maybe using OKRs. Define roles and responsibilities, use tools like RACI charts, make sure your processes are clear, and run good meetings with agendas and clear outcomes. For meeting, connect those team goals to the bigger picture. Highlight the impact of the team's work, give people autonomy, opportunities to grow, align tasks with their strengths, recognize their contributions. And for impact, communicate the results, share positive feedback, celebrate successes, make sure the team understands how their work contributes to the overall strategy.
Team composition,
Yeah.
team dynamics, those are important too, right?
Absolutely. When you're building a team, diversity is so valuable. Different perspectives, different backgrounds, it brings a wealth of ideas. But you need to be intentional about inclusion. Make sure everyone's voice is heard, the size of the team matters. The two-pizza rule is a good guideline. Keep it small enough that everyone can be fed with two pizzas. And the structure of the team, it should follow your strategy. And finally, you need the right mix of skills, technical skills and those all-important soft skills. Leaders need to assess those skills and invest in development.
The manual mentions Tuckman's model of team development. How does that help a leader?
Tuckman's model, it describes the stages teams go through: forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. It's a useful framework. Forming, the team is new, people are polite, maybe a bit hesitant. The leader needs to provide direction. Storming, you get those conflicts, disagreements, people are asserting themselves. The leader helps resolve conflict, establish norms. Norming, the team starts to come together, roles and processes are clearer. The leader empowers the team, encourages collaboration. Performing, the team is hitting its stride. The leader supports them, delegates. And finally, adjourning. The team disbands, maybe the project is over. The leader acknowledges their accomplishments, helps with the transition. Understanding these stages, it helps leaders anticipate those challenges, provide the right support at the right time.
This has been, wow, a deep dive. We've covered so much ground, the essentials for experienced leaders: vision and authenticity, strategic thinking and foresight, leading transformations, building high-performing teams.
And what's so fascinating is how it all connects. You have a strong vision, championed by an authentic leader that sets the foundation, strategic acumen and foresight that informs your transformations. And it's those high-performing teams operating with psychological safety that make it all happen. They execute the vision.
So as you think about all of this, here's a question for you. Which one of these areas, vision, authenticity, strategy, foresight, transformation, team building, if you focus on it for the next few months, could really take your leadership to the next level? Think about how these principles apply to your own situation, your own challenges, and dive deeper into those frameworks: OKRs, RACI, Cotter's 8 Steps, Tuckman's stages. They're all valuable tools.
This deep dive, it's about giving you those key levers, those insights from experienced leaders so you can enhance your own leadership.
To sum it all up, vision grounded in authenticity, that's your foundation. Strategy informed by foresight, that sets your direction. People-centric transformation, that ensures successful change. And high-performing teams, that's how you execute flawlessly. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.